Hey, what's up, everybody? Cam Hemphill here, your host of the Medical Millionaire Podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. My goal is to give incredible value and insight for practice owners. If you're looking to start a practice, grow, scale, sell, every single one of these episodes we put together, they're to help you elevate. They're to help you become the next best practice owner you can be. I want you to become CEOs. I want you to run your practice like a business. I have been on a tear lately with interviews from tech founders, product engineers, practice owners, top 100 providers, and I'm having a tremendous amount of fun. And guys, I have such a cool guest on. This gentleman is deep in the woods with tech, deep in the woods with AI, and he's serving hundreds, if not thousands, of providers and practices on their tech. And I'm so happy to welcome Jason Brand to the show. He's with Podium. They're doing incredible things, and they've been on this massive AI journey lately. And so I thought it was a perfect time to have him on, to have him talk about everything that they're doing. So, Jason, thanks so much. I know you're busy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. So let's jump right in. You guys are out of Salt Lake City. There's obviously something in the water there. Tell us more about Podium. I think most of the audience probably knows about Podium, but maybe some people don't. And you guys are obviously consistently innovating very quickly, right? And give us just an idea. Who is Podium? What are you guys doing? How long have you been there?
Yeah. I've been at Podium for about a decade, working on communication tools and ways that we can streamline that for practices. And as of about 3 years ago, we really dove headfirst into how do we embed AI in this communication platform, and really thinking about a future where agents are handling communication on behalf of businesses in a way that provides a lot of value and for both the business and the consumers. You want to work with a business that's responsive, that has all the right answers, when you ask them, and so forth. And so, the way that's evolved in the last 18 months is, as we continue to look into the future on this front, in order for those AI agents to be the very best they can be, basically be your best employee you've ever had 24/7 around the clock, they need to have access to all the tools that your employees have, to your schedule, to your clinical workflows, to your payment workflows. And so, we set out about 18 months ago to go straight into that. And in some ways, we kind of joked that we didn't really want to build an EMR, but we did, because we knew that having that all in one place would not only provide immense value for practices who are increasingly finding themselves spread across many tools, but also allow us to continue to build these AI agents that are highly capable and really able to run with a lot of the operational coordination work that can be really tedious and get in the way of what practices do very best.
Yeah, no, Jason, you're head of product at Podium. You've been there a long time. You're obviously touching the AI core. You're touching the mechanics of it. You're getting intelligence from your account executives. You're getting intelligence from customer success. You're getting intelligence from other people that have boots on the ground that are talking to practice owners. You guys are doing a really, really great job of absorbing that information. Obviously, have really great processes internally. Take that back to the product team. I don't think I've seen a company at your size be so innovative and move so fast. And I have to say, I'm blown away by how quick you are moving and making decisions. And this is not a startup, right? Podium's a big company. But it has to be a fun atmosphere, a fun environment to work at. So, guys like me, I come from a tech background. I come from a CRM background, and I absolutely love it. I eat it up. So wanted to give you a shout out there for you and your team and everything that you guys are doing. And for the listeners, you guys, look, there is a shift that's taking place. In the next 5 years, if you're not thinking about what your practice is going to look like, it's now time to. AI is here, it's here to stay, it's here to help you. If you don't embrace it, it's probably going to make a massive dent in the practice. And we want to avoid that. So, my thesis on all of this is over the next 5 years, there's going to be practices that scale aggressively. They're going to be increasing enterprise value. They're going to dominate patient acquisition, and they're going to build like this massive operational leveraged ecosystem because everything's fragmented right now. This has been a fragmented market from tech for so long. And like us as practice owners, it's tiresome, right? And how do you get true core data all the way out to from the reporting and the health of the practice and know where to go? So I think that the ones that are not going to really inject AI into their operating system, they might slowly disappear. We don't want that, right? It's not because you weren't great injectors. It's not because you didn't care about patients, right? But it's truly because there was some failure to adapting to innovation around AI, around automation, around communication systems, and really to generate speed of a modern consumer behavior and deliver patient experience, right, at the highest level. So, talk to us more, Jason, about AI. Like, we hear the term AI, I mean, I just threw it out, right, on more of a broad level. But what is agentic AI? What are you guys truly doing inside your system to help the practice owner and deliver a wonderful patient experience?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of it is boots on the ground, like you said. Like, we're of course spending time across the business, but my team is in person or on calls with customers every day. So, I mean, and that's just like understanding deeply like what's working well and what isn't, so we can fix it. But also really understanding the workflows of modern practice and like what are the opportunities for us to continue to do more and more with technology that is rapidly evolving. I mean, we're seeing new things every week and thinking about like how can we better leverage this and get this it, implemented in a way that's going to drive success for businesses and really help them to grow and make more money and compete in a market that's challenging with all this innovation. So, and I think like what makes a real AI, if I'm shopping and I'm asking, it's like I want to understand like is this like a rule based automation or a quick generated message similar to what you might do with ChatGPT, or is this an agent that can really act autonomously and make decisions based on a whole bunch of context and rules, and are all those rules and context unique to my business using the AI? I mean, I think that like we see in the market cases of like, oh, this platform has 10 different AI modules and things with AI slapped on them, and I think that can be very different from, hey, this is an agent that like uses what's available to it in the same way your best employees would, and can go and get work done to you and done for you, and drive impact for your business. And I think a lot of like as we're spending time with customers, we learn that like every practice is a little bit different, and so the part about how this can be customized for your business, we take very seriously. Like, so we have thousands of unique agents deployed that are different with a different set of instructions, and as a business, you're getting in there and understanding like, hey, how do I want it to behave differently when it comes to discussions about this services or making recommendations for these types of patients. And you get in there and see that, you see the instructions, you see the success of the different pathways that somebody's taking through these instructions, and the outcomes you want it driving. So anyway, I can go on, but it's really exciting for us to give businesses these tools and to think about how it can continue to grow in the way it operates for their business.
It's moving so fast. I mean, I think if I was to roll back the clock 3 years, I wasn't using Chat GDP, which I think is the most basic AI tool out there today. You know, you could use it as a search engine. You could use it as a quick prompt to write a text or an email or maybe a caption for social. It's quite powerful. That they're IPOing pretty soon, and the valuation's obviously high. They have a massive user base, and people use it. I think Claude has taken a tremendous amount of market share right now. I think you see a lot of people migrating to that, but I could go down that whole road, right? I think when people are talking about AI, my sense is the practice owner is still looking at it, very confused on AI. Well, I use AI, sure, in my practice because we use ChatGPT and it makes a caption and I can use it for my social media. And maybe we use another tool to create content. And Chat just rolled out this cool little image thing that I see over social media. But you guys are creating, agentic AI, true intelligence, right? Where it's going into the EMR and it's extracting information that you can use to market to your patient base. That I thought was just absolutely fascinating. In fact, like one of the cool things I saw was helping with lead conversions or communication consistency or follow up systems. So, from your perspective, what is the biggest difference between practices that are growing rapidly? I see practices that are still seeing 50% year over year growth, 100% year over year growth, depending on where they are in the life cycle, 20%, 30% is obviously very, very healthy for practice that's been around for a while. But from your perspective, the ones that are scaling rapidly versus the ones that are plateauing, is it a systems problem? Like, what is it from a head of products mindset?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like to put myself in the shoes of the people running the business and the patients on the other side. And I mean, I think that like those that are able to grow really quickly are those who are ultra responsive to inbound leads, to inquiries, to people who want to get a hold of them for various issues, and then have great ways to follow up and make sure that no one's falling between the cracks. Whether that's a new lead and that they got busy over the weekend and never responded, and like are you following up the next week and getting in touch with them? Or maybe it's an existing patient that you haven't seen for a little while, but ought to be coming in, and so reaching back out them, re-engaging, and so all of that can be done manually, but it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of tracking. You got to have great employees who are staying on top of that stuff, and I think that's why we see those who are doing very best there, and from our perspective, are using AI assisted tools to do that for them, just because of the sheer amount of work it takes to provide that amazing experience that people expect, right? I mean, we live in a world where everything is ultra responsive and tailored to us as consumers, and I can get Amazon to drop stuff on my porch, if not the same day, the next morning, and all those things. And so if I'm not being catered to, whether intentional or not, I lose track of things and I forget them. And so I think playing to that is probably the biggest differentiation that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I like that. I think when you look at it from a practice owner's lens or a provider's lens, at the end of the day, they sell time, and sometimes, Jason, they don't even realize that, right? You have to educate them. Like, you selling time, and you have to go through this formulation with them. It's like, how many treatment rooms do you have? Okay, I have five. Well, how many hours are in the day? All right, well, 8 hours in the day. Five times eight, 40. Okay, so how much time are you actually selling? What is your utilization rate? How much time are you spending on your systems? And if that's you, the most expensive provider owner that's spending time on your systems, when it's almost like, let your system work for you versus you working the system, right? Like, and I think that the practice owner is always trying to fire themselves from getting time back, like all their administrative duties. They start to open up in the sense of, oh yeah, I guess I shouldn't be using my system that way, and duplicating data entry into multiple systems and trying to pull a report from a third party system and waiting for my fractional CFO to give me that report so that I can go put it in this report. And now I have wellness, so I have to have another EMR. I mean, dude, I have seen some tech stack fragmentation like you wouldn't believe. And then they just throw bodies at it, right? They just throw bodies at it. When, look, I'm a big fan of human beings, but I'm a big fan of like deploying tools when it buys your time back. And so I think, just to build on that for practice owners, that's how you guys should be thinking: is how many hours do I have to sell? That should be your number one priority. And if you're using those hours to manually maintain a system, really start to think about all that administrative work and how you can delegate it to an operating system that is using something like AI. And so let's shift gears for a sec, right? Because I think that when we're talking about AI, it's like anybody could take AI and, like, let's just, from a marketing standpoint, throw it on a landing page, come up with copy, spin it up through some sort of platform, and have a hosted system, and maybe they fill out a form and a lead comes in. You guys are taking it much further. Can you just walk us through the whole experience of what a practice owner could feel if they were using a product like yours from an EMR standpoint?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it starts with making sure the EMR is set up correctly, and so because the AI is as good as your best employee might be working on a system in the way you described. Like, they can be all over this, and spend you could have somebody full time just working in and around the system and optimizing and so forth. So, but I think once we get past that, it's like, all right, now this AI has a set of instructions. We work really closely with a practice owner to get that set up as they onboard and understand their preferences on a long list of, like, hey, here's what we recommend, but like, where do you have adjustments and so forth you need to make with that? And then we do testing with them to go back and forth. And I mean, I think what's really awesome, and I alluded to this earlier, is like, we have this tool that we call the AI Studio, where I can go in and see, like, all right, here is the playbook for booking a new appointment, and the one for rebooking, and the one for how we handle cancellations, and the one for how we can on and on for whatever the workflows are. And you, in some ways, you think of that as like the manual you'd give your employee on the first day, saying like this is the way we do this process. And you can see like what's the goal of this process, how do we think about success for this process, like what's the information you need to make good decisions for this process. And like I said, like we got the defaults that come out of the out of the box, based on experience we have working with thousands of practices on this. But then where a business takes it is totally up to them. And so what that turns into is like, all right, you've got new leads coming in, and the AI agent, we call her Avery. You can rename her based on your business. Is using those instructions and having that conversation, and then getting people on the calendar. And when somebody follows up and says I need to cancel, it's like, all right, well, Avery knows what your cancellation policy is, how you can handle it, can have that conversation with the patient about like, all right, well, I can do that. This deposit, can move, or this cancellation fee applies because we're inside of 48 hours, or, whatever rules you have in place, and operate in that way. And really like, give you that time back to be focused on, like you said, the hours in the day you have to provide care, and services to your patients. So that we could go on, but that's a lot of how this might look for some of those key workflows. We also have people who define like, all right, these are the points in time where I want you to loop me in as a human, or loop in this particular person on my team. Somebody's asking about this, or somebody gets frustrated about this particular thing. Pull me in so I can be part of the conversation. And
Yeah, I love that you break it down like that, right? It's got all this horsepower, right? You have a name, it can help convert, it can help rebook, it can train, it's got a playbook, protocols, all this stuff. I think one question that I'm sure practice owners have, I have too, is I think it's almost like you could have the best AI agent out there. How do you train the AI agent, right? Because they have to, it doesn't just come like out of the box, ready for XYZ med spa, your language, your thing, your cancellation policy. Like what is that? How long is that fast? How do you feed it? How does it get trained so it can really become this employee that you're
right.
talking about?
Right. I mean, well, the advantage is, when it's working well, unlike an employee, you give them the instruction once, and it's going to happen. It's going to handle it that way every time. But I think it's, generally we're talking about some investment. We're gonna, among other things, spend a few hours on this with you and make sure we're getting, out of the box, like what are the really important things that are, generally distinct between practices that we need to get configured right from the get go. And then from there, it's really all about, generally we see people in their first couple of weeks, watching closely what the AI is doing, and there's really easy ways in the product to share feedback the same way you give feedback to your employee. Like, hey, next time, don't say it this way. This is how we do things here. Hey, it looks like you don't know about our policy for this. I need you to update your memory for this. And the neat thing is, like, when you give that kind of feedback, it's going to come back and say, great, like, here is this playbook we have. For how we do bookings. I'm going to make this change to the playbook based on what you told me, and here's how I would handle this conversation next time. And you're looking at that and saying, yeah, that looks great, let's go for it. Or you're saying, that's not quite there, let's work on this together a little bit more. And this is a separate agent, in a sense, you're working with to perform surgery a little bit on your customer facing agent to make sure it's working the way you expect it. So yeah, I mean, so we see some initial investment up front to get set up, and then something where you're keeping an eye on it and you're gaining trust, and and then you're getting to the point where you're like, hey, the agent pulls me in when it needs me, but otherwise it's humming along, and I'm not checking it at night or on the weekend, and I know that it's jumping right in and handling things as they come in.
I love that you said that, because here's where I see is the disconnect. Not necessarily even aesthetics, like AI in general, or like voice agents, or text agents in general. They'll try it and they're like, it didn't really work. It didn't really sound like us. I don't know. It sounded kind of funny on the phone. It just I don't. Let's ditch it. It's not going to work. And I think the mindset needs to be, hold on, train it. It has to be trained, just like an employee. You can't bring Susan, front desk person, in for a day and not train her, not give her any direction at all. Like, just put her in the front seat and say, have at it. Like, that's a big disconnect in the market, right? And really, I mean, even outside of aesthetics. And if they take the time to do the implementation, just if you were to buy a software, if I was to go buy I don't know, call it salesforce.com, call it ClickUp, call it whatever tool is out there, SaaS based product. You can buy it, but you have to implement it, and then you have to train your team on how to use it. Like, it doesn't, you don't just pull it out of the box and it works. I mean, here, I'll give you another, like, just a off the cuff example that's outside of tech. My daughter wanted a new bike recently. Apparently, the e-bike scene around here, Jason, is out of control. I'm like, you guys all have little motorcycles, and
Exactly.
dude, it's wild in the neighborhood. But they graduated. It was kind of their little present, and I got them bikes. These bikes showed up in boxes. I had to build the damn thing, right? Like, it didn't show up like ready to use, and she can just go out there and rip it. Like, we had to build it, then we had to have a talk about it, then we had to put the safety helmet on, then we had to like make sure the bolts were tight, and then we built up to where it's like, okay, now like maybe in a few weeks you can try a willy, but you're not going to try a willy out of the
Yeah.
box, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that just came to me. That was a recent thing that I went through with my daughters. But that's how people need to look at this AI, is it just doesn't come out of the box ready to be used. But man, when you implement it and you take the time to actually train it and utilize it and give it feedback and feed it your SOPs and you feed it your messaging, your tone, you could go into Claude or you can go to chat and you could say, hey, like, give me, I want to feed my AI agent everything that I have in my memory of our practice, of our tone and our content and everything we have and how we talk. And by the way, here's the link to my website that has my terms and conditions. It has all of my cancellation policies. It's got all of our bookings. It has all of our content, and maybe that's a source of truth. And then you could give it access to the EMR, and here's all the stuff. And then you go push that in to the ecosystem. I mean, talk about, I mean, the amount of intelligence that that thing receives, and then it just gets up to speed. It's pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I mean, I think the other important part that we see as well is like working with your team on the best way to work with this agent. Sometimes we see front desk staff who are intimidated by it or nervous about like, hey, what is this agent doing? And I can do this 5% better. And so like, I think working with your team on identifying like, hey, how do we get out of the way and let this agent do the work? And like, what are the higher leverage things that your team could be doing instead of what they're used to, which maybe babysitting a texting inbox or babysitting meta leads as they come in and so forth. Once you've continued to build that trust.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think, sometimes it's, there's people out there, practice owners is, what, AI is not there yet in their mind, right? I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. Um, Look, I think time is now. It's no longer optional. I use multiple AI tools a day, and the amount of efficiency that I have with inside of my ecosystem. I'm producing this podcast. The amount of AI I use, right? It's it's like I don't even know how I was doing it before. Was I really doing all this manually and piecemealing it together? Man, this stuff is amazing. And so, what are your thoughts there for the practice owner that is listening today that says, look, you guys are, everybody's talking about AI conferences, podcasts, all this stuff. Like, let's give them one hardcore reason. Like, why is it not optional for a practice owner in particular? Um, from their entire workflow, like, because I guess it could be optional, right? They have their own option; they can use whatever they want. But from your stance, from a thought leader standpoint, why is it not optional? Why can't I just continue doing what I'm doing, and I'm the best injector in the world, and my patients love me?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the challenge is that you're in a competitive market with lots of practices out there, and people are all trying this stuff out. And I think there's some stuff that works and some stuff that doesn't, and everybody's learning. Like you said, you got to give it some time and invest in improving it. But people are interacting with your practice and others and other service providers out there and really getting accustomed to service that is empowered and accelerated by AI. And so, I think you just risk, like we kind of you started when we began the discussion, that like, over the next 5 years, there's going to be a lot of changes in the market. And I think that, AI is going to supercharge many people to do their very best work to grow their businesses in ways that, we wouldn't have been able to imagine a few years ago. And if you're not harnessing that, you're sort of on the other side of it. And so I think, and the other thing I'd say here is, that, similarly on the consumer side, people are getting more and more used to working with AI. I mean, what share of the AI usage that people have out there is probably questions related to their health or services they be receiving. People aren't nervous to talk to AI about this stuff, and so we don't need to be worried about this idea that, like, oh well, people are really accustomed to the human touch, which of course is super important for people when they get into practice or when they have complex, things that they need to handle in person. But also, like, I don't think you're offending anybody by leveraging AI and really taking full advantage of the intelligence that's available.
I agree. I 100% agree. I mean, to your point on Amazon earlier, I mean, we used to think that we needed to go to the store and have this human touch connection, and online sales is never going to work. And there's no way people are going to spend $50, $30. Shoot, I just spent a couple grand on some bikes recently and had full trust they're going to show up and they're going to work. And guess what? They did. And so it's this massive shift that's taking place, especially for younger user adoption. Gen Z is coming in, and Gen Z is very much a practice ideal customer profile, from a patient standpoint. That's real, and they are embracing AI. In fact, I was reading a study recently that uh, they would rather communicate with AI than a human, which was, it could sound weird for maybe guys like you and I. I don't know. I'm 41 years old, but I guess I'm old enough to know when text messaging came out. I had a phone and I was like, why would we text? I would never text. Why not just call somebody? And now it's like, don't call me, just text me.
Yeah, yeah. Please text me first if you're going to call me too. Like, I'm not.
Text me first if you're gonna call me. Like, that's just like proper etiquette. It's so literally, if someone calls me, like, why is he calling me? You should text me first.
Yeah,
But that's the case, right? That's the shift that's going to take place. They want this frictionless communication. They want instant gratification. That's the economy that we live in. And maybe we are losing a little bit of personal touch, right? I obviously still think like that consultation process, that is a wonderful place to have that personal touch. Like, they're going to your Instagram and they're looking at who you are, your personality, your expertise, your education, your facility. So like they're already shopping you online. And then when they reach out, what happens when no one picks up the phone? What happens when no one responds to a text? What happens when they can't book online? Like, we're just busy. We just got to get stuff done. I got to check it off the list. If I want to book an appointment on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, I don't, I just, I need to book it at 2 o'clock, right? Just let me get it done because I have to leave. So I think you're right in this frictionless type of environment. And for a new business model of aesthetics, let's just say, like, let's look at, there's been EMRs around for years, right? Would you say it's more challenging to have a legacy EMR and build AI on top of that, or coming in as an AI EMR? I'm not sure. Like, you're way more technical than me. I'm just curious to know, is it easier to go AI first or legacy tech and then build an AI? What's your thoughts?
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, like, um, increasingly, a whole different world of how AI is changing things is building software. And so, with AI, increasingly building software, menus and workflows and triggers and so forth is like really easy with AI. And not to say it doesn't take some time, and you need to do it carefully to make sure there's not bugs and so forth, but that gets easier and easier. And so I think that, like, making sure that we deeply understand how to provide the very best agents in the market, who can work hard on your behalf, who are trainable, and so forth. Like, I mean, we think of that as the hardest and most important work. And like I said, we've, in the last, uh, year, 18 months, we've built out an EMR and the capabilities needed to handle all those workflows inside of Podium. And it's been work, but I think, our opinion is definitely like, hey, that the hard part here is the agents and getting it right. And then yes, we need the EMR capabilities and the workflows to be available to those agents in the platform.
Now let's just take a practice that has done the work. They made the acquisition. They have a AI EMR operating system. I don't even know if that's what you guys call it, but to me, I guess that's just what it
Yeah,
inherently feels like, right?
yeah,
And by the way, I'm a 20-year CRM process automation guy.
yeah,
I'm not just like been in aesthetics for 10 years and own a med spa. So I get it. You're way more technical than me. I look at it also, Jason, from an enterprise value standpoint, right? A lot of these practices are going to trade in the next 3, 5, 7 years, and they're going to trade twice. There's a ton of PE coming in. In fact, I was on a phone call earlier today with Aviva. They've acquired tons of practices, and they plan to do a crazy roll up and have a really cool offering and a nice value proposition. Um, these are very intelligent uh, buyers, very sophisticated underwriters. They a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, they didn't understand the tech rails from lead to booking to follow up to patient to reporting to revenue per hour to health of the practice to utilization rate, tie that back to marketing, push a button, something goes out. They didn't know any of that. All they thought was, wow, this is an attractive space that has repeat business. We're going to get out of dental. We've been in there for years. We're going to go into aesthetics and start making acquisitions, right? And now they're like, okay, who has the best tech? Where are we saving the most time? What is the utilization rate? What is the revenue per hour? How quickly can I deploy this thing? Right. And so it's not just a tool, it's going to change EBITDA, scalability, and enterprise value. And I think this is where the conversation gets really interesting because it's not just about tech anymore. It's about true enterprise value from an investor's lens. So, you know, it's going to reduce chaos. It's going to reduce front desk dependency. It's going to improve booking rates. It's going to increase utilization, lifetime value. I could go on and on, but from an operational bottleneck, like, is that what you guys are really trying to solve? Is fragmentation? Let's get rid of the bottlenecks. What happens when staff leaves? Like, what metrics improve the fastest? Who owns what track and swim lanes? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, yeah, no, we definitely see a ton of that. And I mean, I think like, in some ways I think back to like I think this is like book in some entrepreneurship class in college that called the E-Myth, if you've ever heard about it. This is
Yeah.
like I think this is an old book at this point. But like I think the whole thesis of this book was like, hey, you got into business because there was some service or thing you really loved making or providing. And then you got into it and you realized like, wait a minute, this is like becoming more about the operational nightmare of running a business than it is like doing the thing that I love. And like what I wake up and think every day is like, hey, what we are doing is turning that on its head and allowing somebody who started a business to focus on what they love, what the reason they got into the business, which was working with patients and changing their lives and being able to provide really awesome services and not worry about the other stuff. That like we can provide tools in AI that are handling all of that operational runaround, so that you can focus on what you do very best and get really good at it. Like we said, I think like the winners in a world with AI are those who can leverage AI to just get really good at the thing they do best. And in your words, like you said earlier, like how do I spend the very most hours per day per week doing that thing that I do best?
Yeah, and I'm telling you, from a practice owner standpoint, they love helping patients. Like, they come from care. They come from helping these patients. They want to spend time with them. They want to help them improve, their overall look, their overall feel. They want to build confidence. They want to help them feel better, look better, all the things, and they can get bogged down with all of the administrative duties, even if they're hiring the front desk and training them on it. Ultimately, they could be training them in the wrong way, the legacy way, and they're going to be, just moved out of the path pretty quickly. So what is your now from a Podium standpoint? What's the vision for AI? Really, like, from a native practice. Walk us through where Podium is headed. I know where you guys are now. I think at least I have an understanding. I'm sure there's a lot of things you haven't told the market, and that's totally fine. I'm not asking you to disclose whatever you guys are revealing at some point. I have no idea. But like, from a broader standpoint, where are you headed? Because what's interesting to me is you guys, you don't just build AI as an add-on feature. It's not. It's like it is the system, right? It's the infrastructure around it.
Yeah, yeah, no, and definitely. I mean, you said earlier AI operating system, which I think is like kind of what we've internally increasingly started calling this, which is like, hey, this is a tool where that can run your business, and it's AI at the heart of that. And yes, all of the tools that the AI uses and has access to, that you as a user have access to as well, really matter. But the AI being really capable and impactful for the business is what we think a lot about. And so, of course, there's a lot of that, and we continue to invest in making that the agent that we've talked most about today, and that you hear most about from Podium in the marketplace, is this agent that can handle communication with your customer and can do outreach, can respond to inbound requests, can work on your calendar, can answer questions, can be really tailored to a particular patient based on the information in the EMR that you choose to make available to it, like their membership and their benefits and credits they might have, vouchers, so forth. All of those things. Another side of this that we talked a little bit about, like this idea of the agent that you use to perform surgery in a sense on your customer facing agent. There's a lot of growth and opportunity there that we're seeing, and this idea that you can be interacting with an agent that is for you. You think about it as your assistant in a sense, that has access to all of those things inside of the platform, and can help you understand what's going on and then take action on your behalf. And like, we're building a bunch of reporting and capabilities that exist in the market because people need them for these things, and we'll continue to invest in that. But we increasingly think that like the way that you interact with software will be the software talking to you and telling you the things you need to know, and you telling it, yes, this is how I want to handle it in this way this time, where, hey, every Tuesday morning, just go ahead and do this and take care of it for me. And yeah, so we've got a pilot with a version of that out with a bunch of customers. And it's honestly really exciting. And I think, like, we have people who are doing some really incredible things with it, who are talking about how it's like, oh wow, this has like reignited my love for this industry, and what I can do as a practice owner, because of what I was saying before, which is like, hey, they want to focus on what they do best and what they love doing, and this is allowing them to do that. And so, without getting into too much of the details, I think you'll hear more and more from Podium about this in the future. But this idea of this like operational agent who can act on your behalf and inside of the tool, and continue to expand what is possible for AI to handle on your behalf, is something we think a lot about, and we really believe is a core part of the future of how businesses will be run.
So what do you think in I know that we're talking about 5 years. What jobs do you think are going to disappear? I mean, we're at 26. We got 4 years.
Yeah.
So 3.5 years, I guess. What jobs are going to disappear if this type of tech is injected into a system that manages the patient of record, the day to day, the charting, the appointment, the payment?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think if it's like, in a lot of industries, it's the jobs that are the go between, where, hey, I take information and I hand it off into the system or to another person. And, there's no reason that agents can't handle that, or, either to hand it off or to handle the whole process. Right. And so I think, that looks like, cases where, it is a lot of just, routine interactions where I'm doing this, the same adjustments on the calendar or so forth every time, that I think that those are the jobs where it's like, hey, we can make this really streamlined, and enable folks to focus on the share of their job that is providing more value and driving the business forward.
So you think it'll put them in a position to actually focus on more, important type of objectives, maybe growth strategy, efficiencies versus, just throwing a body to do a mundane task, right?
Yeah,
In between
yeah.
jobs. Yeah.
Right, right. And an example is like we've said a lot here, like, reaching out to people at the right time to follow up because, they never got back to you, or to follow up because it's time for them to come in and they haven't done that yet. Like, a lot of people are still doing that manually, or feeling guilty about not doing it manually, right? Like, they've got that stack of papers with people who have got their, memberships who are about to expire, or vouchers or whatnot. And being able to say, like, yeah, that work just handles itself.
Yeah, it'd be nice to pull a list of a base of your patients that haven't been in 4 months, and just, I don't even want to pull the list, Jason. Like, I want to, it's one thing to, like, okay, I can go into a system, pull a list or a report and say, hey, all these people haven't been in. Hey, Sally, go call them all. And Sally's like, is that 300 phone calls? Yeah, and let me know the outcome of all those phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Well, when do you want this done? Oh, I need it done by tomorrow. All right. Well, like that's a big thing. And how do you guys have a feature that can do something like that? And maybe because I don't want to even pull the list. I just want to
Right,
like in a
right.
perfect world, I just want to text it, be like, "Hey, go get this done, and here's what I want you to
Yeah,
say."
yeah. No, that's exactly what we're seeing with this
Oh, okay.
operational agent we're talking about, where you can say like, hey, every Tuesday morning I want you to do this, and pull me in. Tell me what you're going to do before you do it. Maybe I want to put my eyes on it quickly and see before I say yes. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like instead of like how do we build the tool to export this list and let you go through it and then take it to some other tool to say upload it and then write out the message and like do I want the message to be different for different segments? Well, let me think about that and versus just saying like, hey, you know my business and my patients and my goal here is like keeping the calendar full and I've got some space next week. And so what can we do to fill that in?
Do you think eventually it will become this like literally this extension of the practice where it's like, dude, I trust you. you know, I mean, imagine somebody that's been using it for 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's trained and it knows the personality, it knows how you operate, it knows when you click buttons, it knows when the calendar needs to be full, it knows what providers' personalities are, expertise is. And I mean, at some point, you just like when you have so much trust, like there's some employees, I would say, like in my ecosystem, on my team, I'm like, I trust that person to get it done. Or there's others, it's like, well, let's meet before, let's make sure you have the SOP, you
Right.
know.
Right.
It
Yeah.
gets to that point
Yeah.
where you're like, just run. You work. You work.
Yeah. No, I think that's the direction we're headed.
That's fascinating. Like fascinating. I love it. I know that there was a lot of other talking points that we are going to get to, but I think having you on and just talking about the tech and the AI and where you're going and really the impact of the software, I think was really important. So I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. Let's
You,
be fun.
yeah, you guys also have. I think if the listeners tune in and take action, want to learn more about Podium, right? You guys have some sort of exclusive offer out. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We do have an exclusive offer for listeners. So I think if you follow up, I think you're going to put something in the show notes or whatnot. But yeah, our teams, mention the podcast. We've got a special offer that's in place for folks who want to learn more.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So if you guys are curious for the audience, I mean, if you guys want to learn more, go reach out to them. I'll put a link in if you guys want to go through there. But if you mention the podcast, Medical Millionaire Podcast, or my name, it sounds like there's some sort of exclusive offer. I think it's worth exploring. Like I don't know where you guys are at in your journey for the audience of what EMRs. I know that the other thing is like, oh, do I want to change EMRs? Like, oh my gosh, that's such a big thing and a pain in the butt. Um, I have talked to your team. I haven't personally been through it, but it sounds like the onboarding process is quite seamless, and that's always a conversation point. But hey, man, I've really enjoyed having you on. I know you got AI agents to deploy and to build and to train and do all the fun stuff. So I'll leave it at that. You guys go connect with them. Go reach out to these guys, see what they're doing. They're like at every conference, and they have all these really cool booths and giveaways and stuff like that. So check them out, and I'll leave it at that. Until next time, happy injecting.